Idaho has become a very popular destination for remote workers, and in today's video, I'm going to tell you why. Hey guys, our team gets calls, texts, and emails every single day from people just like you trying to learn more about and potentially move to North Idaho. We would love to help you with that. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button and tap the notifications bell. That'll keep you up to date on all of our latest content. And be sure to check out our podcast. It's on this channel as well, or you can find it on all audio podcast platforms under the same name, The North Idaho Experience. Check it out. We interview tons of local community members and it's super entertaining. I promise we don't talk about real estate in the podcast. All right, jumping right in. So out of the approximately 84,000 workers in Kootenai County is the county that Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Hayden, Rathdrum all reside in. One of the bigger counties, the biggest county up here in North Idaho. Out of those 84,000 workers, 13.6% work from home. So it is pretty darn common. And obviously it's become quite a bit more common in the last 4-ish years. Something big happened a few years ago that kind of pushed a lot of people that way. So here we are. So pretty common thing up here in North Idaho is for people to work remotely. Those numbers put Kootenai County at number 2 in the state. So the second highest county in the state in regards to remote workers, first being Ada County. Obviously, that's the big county down there by Boise. Okay, in this video, I'm kind of going to go through some of the reasons why that's the case and break that down for you, why it's so popular to move to Idaho and work remotely. Obviously, it's a huge benefit for people if they're looking to move here and they can bring their job with them. I've talked about this in a lot of previous videos. The job market here in North Idaho is very tourism, hospitality, healthcare heavy. So if you're not in one of those fields, it can be tough to find a job. So having the ability to bring your job with you is a huge benefit and will make a much smoother transition if you're looking to move up here. All right, probably the number one reason people are moving here is to find freedom. Hard thing to imagine that you can't find freedom anywhere in the United States these days, but that is the sad reality. So right here in North Idaho, we have some of the best freedom. Is that a thing? Anywhere you can find in the US. So that is driving a lot of people to move here or want to move here. Idaho is a very free state when it comes to things like Second Amendment, choice for schooling your kids, medical freedom, although some will argue that, who say that, the abortion laws here are rather strict. Lots of people like that too. So the beauty is you have the right to live wherever you want in this country and you can move somewhere that your values align with. So remember that. All right, next up, affordable cost of living. That's another good reason that people move here and want to work here remotely because the cost of living is a lot more affordable than most places. Now, there will be people that argue me on that as well because it has gotten quite a bit more expensive in the last few years to live up here, making the cost of living comparable to a lot of other states. Whereas in the past, it used to be really, really cheap. Now it's just really cheap. Now, not even always really cheap. But when you compare it to some states like California, Oregon, and Washington, it can be quite a bit cheaper to live up here. And that's very appealing to people. So if they have the ability to take that job remotely and move here, keep doing the same job at potentially the same pay that they were at in one of those higher priced cities. Now they're enjoying a much lower cost of living and they get to live in the beautiful free state of Idaho. Total win. Another reason it's become so popular is the abundant natural beauty and resources that we have here in North Idaho. It's like I've never talked about that before, but it's here, believe it or not. Idaho is really beautiful. It's not all potato fields, especially when you get up here in North Idaho. The landscape is very appealing. I'm not a big fan of the high desert landscape of the Boise area, but maybe that appeals to you and that's fine. North Idaho is very heavily treed, lots of lakes, rivers, forests, mountains. It is a nature lover's dream. And that is a big appeal to a lot of people. Plus, there are so many abundant resources up here. We have plenty of water, plenty of timber, a wild game, all of that stuff. And I know someone's going to jump on here and be like,
don't tell people about the hunting.
Well, not everybody's into hunting, so don't worry about that. It takes a lot of effort, so there'll still be plenty of wild game out there for everybody. Idaho is relatively quiet and low stress, and that's a big appeal to a lot of people too, because if you're living in the hustle bustle of somewhere else, moving somewhere like North Idaho where you're not going to have a ton of traffic and not a ton of population, the population of Idaho as a whole is right around 2 million, so it's pretty darn small. And we're selective about who we take up here. So if you vote blue, you might not want to move up here. You might not like it. We're all very nice up here. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that we do like it the way it is. So let's try to keep it that way. If you tend to vote that way, there are plenty of other beautiful states that you can move to. So remember that. But overall, like I said, low stress environment and pretty darn quiet. So you might come up here with that remote job and find yourself a beautiful home up in Hayden, and you have an office that looks out over the lake, and you can sit up there and enjoy your time talking on the phone, doing your office stuff, wishing that you were out on that lake at that moment. That's a possible reality for you. So maybe you should consider that. Hey, hunters and fellow meat eaters, do you want 100% success rate of putting meat in your freezer this year? Then buy beef from Acme Acres. It's pasture raised, grass fed, grass finished, no hormones, no antibiotics, just delicious, clean, all American beef raised right here in North Idaho. Order right off the website or give them a call to get going on your custom cut sheet. And if you buy a whole beef, you get a free freezer. Acme Acres. Okay, this is a big one. Reliable internet access. Obviously, that is a huge must if you are working from home. You need reliable internet access. And even if you live out in the sticks, you still have some great options. Starlink is everywhere up here. My boy Elon has got his satellites cruising over North Idaho all the time. So plenty of internet that way. I've heard there are wait lists in the past, but it seems to be coming pretty quickly right now as far as getting your Starlink set up and sent to you. So great option. It's apparently super reliable up here and very fast. So if you're living way out in the middle of nowhere, you have that option. There are microwave relays. There are satellite dishes. There are other options as well if you're living out there. If you're closer to town, you may very well likely be on fiber optics. So that is everywhere up here. There are several companies providing it, and cable internet as well. So lots of options up here. Obviously, that is a must. And I hear that from a lot of people that they are required to have a certain speed of internet if they are to work remotely, and should not have any problem finding that up here in North Idaho. Low crime rates make it very possible for people to move here and work remotely. As I've said many a time, an armed society is a polite society, and North Idaho is well armed. Refer back to number one, which was freedoms and the Second Amendment. But that is a huge benefit for a lot of people because you want to feel safe in your castle, your home. And that is definitely more likely up here than most places in the US, especially these days. We don't have a large migrant problem, illegal migrant problem. We don't have a large homeless problem. So in general, property crimes, violent crimes, all of the crimes across the board are going to be much lower than where you might be thinking about moving from. And that's a good thing for me, for sure. Peace of mind makes the home life a lot easier and makes the work life a lot easier then. All right, a growing entrepreneurial, I cannot say that word, and tech scene. Believe it or not, North Idaho has so many entrepreneurs. If you listen to our podcast, we have almost everyone we have on is in that world. So it's great to see. The community up here is super supportive of each other. You know us, we love to support local small businesses because that is the real bread and butter of the community. That's what ties it together. So we always push to keep money local. And in doing so, you're providing for the families that live here and support their families. So pretty awesome. And this area is great for that. Boise, of course, down south has a much larger tech scene than we do up here, but it is starting to grow up here. There's lots of startup companies. If you poke your head into one of the numerous coffee shops downtown, you are likely to overhear a conversation from some entrepreneurs out there busting ideas and bouncing ideas off of each other. And that's a beautiful thing in my opinion. So it is nice to have that. I think the ability for people to network and collaborate here is second to none. And that's what really creates a vibrant community. So that's here. And if you're looking for that, you can find it. I'll touch on the traffic up here because I think that is a factor in those that decide to work remotely up here, because there are times when you may need to pop into a co-working space or an office for some reason, maybe a face-to-face meeting or something like that. It can happen. So having less traffic is definitely a plus in that opinion. You can bank on getting somewhere in a reasonable amount of time, even if you're coming down 95 into downtown Coeur d'Alene. It will take some time, but it's definitely a lot more reasonable than other states out there. So I think that's a big plus. And, you'll hear differing opinions. Those that grew up here will tell you that the traffic's horrible, but it's really not that bad. There are some places and some times of the day that you might want to avoid, but usually there's a workaround and you can find a back road that'll get you around that pretty quickly. But overall, traffic is pretty minimal. All right, last up, friendly communities. So even though you might work remotely from home, locked in your little office all day, there is a huge benefit in having friendly communities because it's important to get out and go to networking events and meet other people in other services here, and there are plenty of them. So having access to that wonderful community is super important, even if you work from home. And Idaho, especially North Idaho, has no shortage of that. I find this community to be the best and most welcoming, most energetic, positive vibe that I have ever come across. And I've been a resident of 8 states, so I've been around a bit, and I've just every day super impressed by the people that I meet and the vibe that you get cruising around downtown Coeur d'Alene. It's just can't put my finger on exactly what it is. But once you come here and visit and you pop in downtown, you'll understand what I mean. You walk around down the street and people smile at you and say hi, and you might not be used to that. It takes a minute to get used to, but that is the way it should be out here in the world. So I'll take it. I love it. Well, that's it. I think I touched on some of the bigger reasons on why I think North Idaho is a great place for remote workers. And as I said in the beginning, 13.6% of the workers in Kootenai County, which is the main county in North Idaho, they work remotely or work from home. So you're not alone. We have quite a few clients that move up here that have jobs completely remotely, and they find a great standard of living. Often the motivation is just to raise their families in a place with old school values. That is North Idaho. So that's the drive for a lot of these folks. And having that job beforehand that you can take with you is just a huge benefit to make it a smoother transition. You, of course, can find a job up here. There are plenty. But like I said, there's plenty of stresses when you're looking to move. So if you can take one of those off the table and already have a job, huge benefit. So obviously a great place to look. If you guys have more questions in that regard, we would love for you to reach out, shoot us an email, call, text, whatever. We will help you out on this end and make it as smooth a move as possible. All right, catch you in the next video.